Thank you, Sadia. I am Tanzima Mushtarin. I'm currently the president of ABIA, Michigan chapter. I want to welcome you all to this webinar. It's something we do once every month. We try to bring different speakers from around the world with different professions, different topics, so we can all learn and grow. So I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'm hoping that everyone can learn from today's distinguished speaker. So thank you, and sit back and enjoy what Samuel has to offer. Thank you. Back to you, Sadia.
Samuel Bhaiya, would you mind sharing your screen and start the presentation?
Oh, let's give it a try.
Okay.
We introduce Sadia. Do you want to introduce him?
I think she already did a little bit.
Yeah, Samuel, you can give your own introduction, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Can someone confirm if they can see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, let's go ahead in the slide presentation mode. Okay. All right, so I thought we will talk about running around circles, but not a very exciting topic, running around the circle. You're not moving anywhere, going anywhere. So initially, Mahmoud and I talked about that. We're like, no, let's do something more exciting and crazy. So spiraling upwards, navigating professional growth. That's what we settled on. Hi, everyone. A good afternoon from East Coast. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio right now. I am a software engineering manager, as Sadia mentioned, currently at Excel Informatics. I am also the content editor for a quarterly magazine in Bangladesh called Industrial Insider. This is something I started last year, and I'm really excited. And starting that kind of made me get in touch with ABIA and kind of start a partnership where we decided okay, maybe we can go forward, do something in joint venture. And this talk came out of one of those discussions I had with ABIA leadership. And so today we will start, and I want this to be a very informal discussion. If you have questions, you can interrupt me in the middle. I would think both me and the audience will have much more benefit if we have an interactive session rather than me just going over things for 20-30 minutes or 40 minutes. So let's so that's where we will start. And my plan is to talk for maybe 30-35 minutes and then open it up to the audience to ask anything that you find relevant to our discussion. So as we know, spiraling upward is we want to keep climbing up as time changes with time. So first, some non-goals. What is this talk not about? This, I don't have that much expertise on telling you how to become a manager, director, CEO, how to get bigger paycheck, or some clever life hacks or shortcuts to become successful. So these are not the goals of this talk. Okay, so then you will be asking me, okay, so why am I here on a Saturday afternoon spending my hour? So let's talk about that. So we're going to talk about professional growth. What does it mean in terms of professional growth? Why does it matter? Why do you want to invest in professional growth? And then once you set up your mind on professional growth, I want to pursue, how do one pursue professional growth? And what I'm going to talk today, some of them might appear common sense to you. I have not invented any of this myself. A lot of this comes as a wisdom that has been passed down to me from a lot of my mentors. So I thought through all the things that I have learned from my mentors over the last 15 years of my professional career. And from there, I came up with few principles that has always helped me kind of as a guardrail for me when I'm at a junction of my professional career and I have to decide on something. I have to adapt to a situation. So these are kind of the principles that I received from various mentors that I had over time. And I'm just going to share some of them today. And hopefully like you will also be able to like use them when you're developing your own professional growth framework. So I will not have some exact recipe on what to do, but more of like ideas like, okay, maybe you should consider this and that when you're trying to grow or deciding how you want to grow. So what is professional growth? Believe it or not, like everyone in their professional life will grow. Like no matter where you are and what position you are, if you look back from where you came from, you will grow. So professional growth happens. Like the question is like, are they happening in the right rate? Are they happening in the right direction? So that's what we'll look at. So what is professional growth? Like if you grow professionally, your actions have more impact. So at the beginning of most of our careers, we start in an organization, we contribute on the periphery of the organization in terms of like adding value. As you grow professionally, more and more people in the organization like depends on you for delivering more impactful things. So your action, like whatever you do, will deliver more values, will have more impact as you grow professionally. And from a individual's point of view, your skill range will grow. So as you grow professionally, you will find that you can do more things. You have ability to take over more stuff on diverse kind of problem. And then usually like that also comes with an increase in efficiency and effectivity. You can do the job quickly and correctly. That doesn't need a lot of like redo the work from your other coworkers. And finally, like as you grow professionally, you are usually given more and more freedom, and that allows you to use your talents and skills to generate more values for the organization, and that generally leads to improved outcomes. So if we summarize here, professional growth will be something like if you like pursue professional growth, that means that your actions are going to have more impact, you will have more skills, you will achieve efficiency and effectivity of the things you do, and then you will have the opportunity to use talent and skills to lead improved outcomes. So, and then the question is like, why growth and growth rate matters? As we have been talking, like, I'm like, okay, I see all these things, but why do they matter? The first thing is aspiration. Like you are like, for all of us as a human, we have this like innate drive in ourselves to become a better version of us. Like whatever we were yesterday, we want to be slightly better today and then the next day. So that aspiration in professional life, you want to be better version of yourself, because that's how you get acceptance in your workplace, you get respect in your workplace. So becoming a better version of yourself. So that's why you want to pursue professional growth. And what happens is that organizations, they're always changing, they're always trying to grow themselves. And if you yourself stop growing, that will lead to like a net negative growth, because everything around you are changing and growing, your coworkers are growing, and if you stop growing, then that's a net negative on your end. So that's why growth matters. And this is something very important that I have realized over last 10, 15 years. It's like whenever like people are evaluating you, they will always evaluate you with a recency bias. So what does that mean? Think about like things you have done when you were in like 5th grade or 10th grade, 12th grade. Like those things doesn't probably matter that much when you are a grad student or you are like in your job 5 years down the road. People don't really care that much because that doesn't add a lot of value. So usually like whenever like people evaluate you in terms of your professional skill, they tend to evaluate you on your last 12 to 24 months, maybe 36 months where you are growing. So for example, if we look at here, this is the chart. We have like two person, person A, person B, some arbitrary skill we don't know, and we are seeing the growth rate they have. So if you look at the person A, they had shown tremendous growth at the beginning, but in the last 12, 24 months, we are not seeing a lot happening in their life. They've kind of like plateaued there. And then I have a person B who is not quite there with the skill level, but it's showing a lot of growth potential there. We don't know what's going to happen from the rightmost red line. Like, we don't know whether person A will start showing growth or person B will slow down. We don't know. Everyone kind of like tries to guess or project what's going to happen. And like for a lot of like person, like or leader, they're like come with growth mindset, they will opt for person B than person A, just because we know that there is a lot of growth potential in person B. There is always environments are changing. And if someone who is already in a stagnation phase with their career, like, I don't know, like how much they will be able to adapt. So people, it's a fallacy. I don't think it's something the right way to judge, like judging people for the last 12 to 24 months. But at the end of the day, that's how people judge you. They will always judge you with that recency bias. So in the last like 1, 2, 3 years, if you're not showing a lot of growth, it is very difficult to like get new opportunities. So that's why I always encourage people to like think in those terms and like try to like keep growing. Okay, so now that I have kind of like sold you on the idea of like, okay, I need to grow professionally. Now let's talk about like what are the things happen with growth, like how do you grow? So one of the thing is I call mind the inertia. So growth, you can think of that like a second order of a term, like it doesn't happen instantaneously. It just does not happen. It's like going to the gym or starting running, any new skill. It is rarely instantaneous. You will have to put in time, a good amount of time to actually go somewhere. So whenever you are embarking on that journey of like, okay, I want to grow, I would advise you to keep this in mind, that it is not going to be instantaneous. You will have to pursue that, and don't give up with early failures. So in practice,
I have a question here, Bhaiya.
Sure.
So as you said, growth is really instantaneous. And then you are working on growth, but consistency, that's where my struggle is. Like when I am trying to grow and I keep asking things, or I keep involving in a lot of office work or social work, consistency doesn't always follow the same
yes,
curve.
yeah,
So yeah, that's the struggle for me.
yes. I actually have 2 slides on that, like when I talk about process and
Oh,
goals, like how to
okay.
actually navigate that. But that is a
We'll
struggle.
get there.
Everyone with growth mindset struggle through that. Like, it's not instantaneous, but how do I be in that path? So I will talk about that because I myself suffered through that, and I
I
got
think
some
that's
really
the
good
struggle for most of us.
yeah, I also got some good advice on how to look at that problem, and I'll talk about it like in very shortly. Okay, so in practice, like what we see, as Sadia was mentioning, like there is like a 4 to 8 month lag if you're trying to grow in any direction, or like let's say even in like going to the gym or starting running, like there is going to be that lag. That's how it works. So having that mindset of like putting time in and kind of like accepting that it will not be right now, but eventually it will happen. So eventually is the one of my really favorite words. So I do a lot of backpacking, and this is a very favorite word among backpackers. It's like eventually. If you keep walking, eventually you will get to the end of the trail. So that's one of my favorite words, eventually. So have that there. And this is something I learned, and it was like mind-blowing to me. Like, as human, we overestimate what we can do in a day. We always overestimate what we can get done in a day, but then grossly underestimate what we can do in a year. So that's very kind of counterintuitive. Like, we are always overestimating, we will get all these 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 things done. But in the longer term projection, we always, like for evolution or something, I don't know, we always fail. So have that in your mind, like that, like, yeah, you can do a lot more in longer run than in a day in, day out situation. So just have that in mind. Okay, so these are the characteristics of growth. Like when you're pursuing a growth mindset, you have to keep these in this mind. And then the question is, okay, like Sami, you have told me that I need to grow, and now after attending this seminar, I have to like give up all my personal time and just like day in, day out, like just keep working on growth. Like, is that what you want? Probably not. I don't want you to give up your personal life and other things, other joy in your life, and just invest in your professional life. I really don't want anyone to do that. So then the question is, okay, what are the direction like I should think about growing? Okay, so the first thing is like, if you have a lot of like amateur level skill, that lessens your chance to be impactful, because in organization, when they're trying to like solve some problem, they're looking for professional advice. They will go to the person who has the expert knowledge. So if you know a lot of things, like a jack of all trades, where you have a lot of amateur level skill, you are not that valuable to organizations, because yeah, but in a professional life, it's that debate of like amateur versus professional. Like, if I can get an expert professional opinion, why should I come to you? So why should I value you more than expert level experts? So like, yeah, if you are like at that amateur level, that's probably not going to be very impactful. Then you'll be like, okay, so let me pick one topic or two topic and like really become expert. So, okay, that's a step better than where you are. But that has a little bit of con. The little bit of con is that it reduces your impact surface. So what do I mean by impact surface? Like, if you know one or two things really, really well, people will always come to you for those one or two things, but it's very niche. And then you will miss out a lot of other things that are happening around. People will not like give you opportunities to contribute there. So it's still better. People are still valuing you, but the thing is like, well, like you want to be more valuable than that level. And this is something I hear a lot from a lot of the students who are pursuing advanced degrees like PhD. And they'll always ask me like, hey, Sami, I'm trying to work on this particular problem in my PhD. I know a lot about this, but when I'm looking at job opportunities, there's not a lot of people are doing this thing. Like, how do I place myself as a valuable contributor to teams? Because I know one or two things really well, but then beyond that, I just don't know that much. Like, I don't have a lot of exposure. And then there are like people like who are really good at everything. So polymaths, they are very rare, but there are like people you will see that they know like 10 different things really, really well. But most human, we are mere mortals. We are not like that. Definitely, I am not like that. And time and energy is a big constraint. So you have a limited amount of time in a day, you have a limited amount of energy. So you just cannot be a polymath. Like, it is difficult. I will just say for myself, like, I don't think of myself that I have that trajectory where I can become a polymath. So then this idea is that, okay, I want to become a T person. So what is a T person? It's like I have few things I know really, really, really well. So for me, for example, there are a lot of things in applied math and computational science that I know really, really well. And that's where people comes to me for advice. But then there is a lot of other things that happens around that thing. They're like cross-discipline. So I'm not there in amateur level, but I'm also not a really deep expert. But I have the vocabulary and range to interact with the experts. So I am more than amateur. So I'm spending my time to like increase my breadth and also my depth on one or two things. And in that way, you are increasing your impact surface. You are increasing your chance to have synergistic encounters with other people inside organization, outside organization. And I have a slide where I will show you like all the chance encounters I had because of this kind of like T-shaped approach to like learning things. So there are things I will learn. For example, if I talk about myself, I work with a lot of people who are data scientists. So, but I personally am not a data scientist, but I spend time like taking courses where I know at least something about them, so that when I'm interacting with them, I have the vocabulary, I understand where they're coming from. And that allowed me to like go on, like take on interesting projects with a lot of like data scientist team members in other teams. But again, I don't claim myself as data scientist, but because of that breadth I had, I got the opportunity to like interact with them and like doing interesting projects. So that's kind of the direction of growth. So we talked about the need for growth, the characteristics of growth, like what you expect when you are in the journey, like what should you expect? And then this is like, okay, what are the direction we want to grow? Okay, so this is the slide I kind of mentioned to Sadia earlier, process over outcome. So this is like, think about that. Like if someone, like a lot of us at the beginning of the year, we decided we want to get help, we want to like lose X amount of weight, X amount of, it's something, it's a very common New Year resolution. If you do a survey in US, that's a very common for top, the first goal people have. What happens with that is like most people, they succeed. They're like, okay, I'm done, I lost. But then people have found with the survey that within like 3 to 6 months, those people have put on that weight back. It is a very common thing in US. And psychologists, they kind of explain it in a like a process mindset versus goal mindset. So if you are on a goal mindset, what happens is like you achieve a goal and then you are done and there's like nothing there. So the question is like, do you want to lose weight as an outcome of your healthy lifestyle process, or do you just want to lose weight? And from a sustainability point of view, it's preferable that you become a process person where you have incorporated things in your life and outcomes just are the byproduct of the process. You are not outcome driven. You are more of a process driven. And once this thing was explained to me, like a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, I have actually never thought of. So before that, in my life, it was always like discrete goals. Okay, I want to do good result in my 10th grade, in my 12th grade. It's just distinct goal, like, but not like, okay, I'm learning something. And then I want to go and attend an engineering school, very discrete goal. And this is something, once you understand that, you can explain a lot of like kind of brain, I think also like negative outcome for people that attend engineering school in Bangladesh. They're all like bright students, they're coming to engineering school and all of a sudden they just lose motivation to like do things. This is a very common scenario in Bangladesh. And the explanation is like that they have been trained on a very outcome driven way. So they have this goal, they want to go and attend X school and they're there. But since there is not a process for them for like continuous learning, they attend this goal and they're done. And then you have to like go on goal hunting. Oh, then you have to find another goal. And then you have to find another goal. It's a very discrete jumping from one goal to another and doesn't really integrate well from a sustainable like habit forming way. So process over outcome. So anytime you are trying to pursue a goal, instead of like just looking at the goal, think about the process. So in that way, you can incorporate that in your daily life. And so this is something like a quote from like Churchill I really like, that success is not final, failure is not fatal. So anytime in our life when we are getting a success, that's where the life doesn't end, right? The life goes on. You are climbing on the top of the mountain, but what next? You have to come down to the mountain and find another mountain. So any success in our life, that's not final. And also any failure in our life, that's not fatal. Life goes on. So if you embrace a process mindset, then that goal mindset, you put in time, day in, day out, some days more, some days less, that's fine. Eventually, like if you do it on a long, like over long term, outcomes will happen. You just have to follow the process and integrate the process in your daily life. So for example, learning. So nowadays, like micro learnings are very like popular. So people usually sign up on LinkedIn courses or like Coursera courses. And what happens for a lot of people, even it used to happen to me also, like, oh, this is the beginning of the year, I'm going to sign up for 5 Coursera courses and I'm just going to like finish all of them. And then I will have all these certificates. And I do it for like first month, January, I do a lot. And then I'm like in February, I'm slacking. In March, I'm done. And then everything. And then the next year began and I'm again signing up for like 5 more courses. So once I have found that, okay, like I don't have to do it that way. What I have to do is like every day I want to learn a little bit, and I don't have to tackle all the things all the time. I do a little bit, and then eventually, if I'm doing it that way, like over time, it compounds and it shows up. What it does is like it keeps things simple. It's like, okay, like we have this drive that we want to learn all these different things that we see that at once, and that's what that goal-driven thing was. So instead of that, think about, okay, I want to integrate learning as a process in my life. So what do? Every week, I do like 3-4 sessions of things, but I don't have to see the immediate outcome there. Like I'm just continuously doing whenever I have every week, I have this 3-4 30-minute an hour session. I keep building on that and not really thinking about what I'm getting right away right now. Like don't think about it. Just make sure that you are doing, and again, like what I said, like human try to do a lot in a day. So get out of that, man. You will not be able to do a lot in a day. We always overestimate it. So do small things, do small amount, but do it regularly that way. Don't take on a lot of things to do. Like we get tempted that way. Like I want to get this done, X done, Y done, Z done. Like we get tempted that way. Don't go that way. Do small amount, just small amount, but let it compound over time. As I said, like goal hopping is discrete, and they still if you think in a process-oriented way, the local fluctuation doesn't really impact big picture. That is something like I have seen in my life. I have seen other people who have advised me, and I'm now a big believer of like process-oriented thinking than outcome or goal-driven thinking. Like I have given up on the idea of like I have to achieve X by Y. I have given up on that. I'm more of a like on a regular basis, I'm doing these and these, and I'm seeing that it actually adds up, compounds over long term. So local fluctuations will happen, but if you are a process thinker, then a goal-based thinker, local fluctuations will not matter. Like this has been proven, just not to me. Like I've seen a lot of people who are on this bandwagon now. So yeah, does that kind of help you a little bit?
These are good information, Bhaiya. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I was muted and I had something to say. Like, I keep trying doing the take a small step at a time and keep going, but that is sometimes very struggling. Like, if you are taking very small step every day, talking about that LinkedIn course. Okay, so I started one course. I have few deadlines. I have a few assignments, and I have to sit for an hour every day if I want to get it done. But the problem is maybe 1 or 2 or 3 days, I feel like, no, I have overwhelming pressure at work or at social life. I'm struggling, so I skip probably 1 day or 2 days. And when I do that, it keeps going. Like I keep doing that, and it's very hard to get back on track. So my question was like, okay, it's okay to drop sometimes, but how to get back to the track? Like it's harder even.
It is harder. So what I would advise is to like don't think about like you have to do it like every day. Think of like, okay, I have like 7-day block. I will do 3 days, somewhere in 3 days. Like every day is probably like asking too much because we have a lot of things that happens in our life. Every day is a tough ask. Like I wouldn't think on every day, or maybe like have a 14-day block. Like out of this 14 days, I will have 6 sessions. And that way you will have a little more flexibility to like move things around, but get that like you will still need self-discipline. There is no way to that saying that without
Strong
self-discipline.
mindset. Like I have to do it.
Yeah, you have to do it. You just have to have, but asking to do yourself like do it every day is probably asking a little too much. So think about like take a calendar, have like a 14-day block, and say that in this 14-day, I will have 5 sessions of whatever you are trying to do, like 5 sessions. And don't try to like cram another goal. And if you have like too many goals at a given time, your schedule will get crammed, and it's just not sustainable. It is for anything. You have to like see, okay, I can like you can probably like grow in 1 or 2 direction at a given time. But if you're trying to like do too many things, at least for me, like it is overwhelming, and I have miserably failed trying to do that, and now I avoid doing it. Okay, so this is another topic that has been like, this is also like an eye-opening topic. When I looked at career growth, it's like, okay, so I talked about like directions to grow. Now I talked about, okay, how to like practice that thing, how to like integrate your growth mindset in your day-to-day life. And then this is something very important when it was like showed to me, the explore versus exploit. So think about this. A lot of time, like let's say it's lunch hour, I want to go and eat something. And what happens is that you have a couple of options. You can go to the same old place that you have been there, you know what to expect. You go, you show up there, you have your lunch, you're happy. And also, but then sometimes it's like, okay, should I also go and try some other different restaurant? And if you do that, what happens? There is a good chance you might get disappointed, like it's a just bad meal or like a bad chef or something. So, and then so you're taking that risk to try something new. You might get lucky and you might find a new best favorite place, but then you might also get disappointed. You're wasting your like $15 of lunch money, just not really satisfied. So the question is like when to explore, when to exploit. So for migratory birds, when they migrate, this is the strategy they follow. So they will, when they're migrating from like north to south during the winter, they will try to explore for a few days to find a area where they can go and feed themselves. So they will explore for like 6-7 days. They will find a place where they can, and they stay there for couple of days, couple of weeks, depending on the species. And then once the resources are sufficiently drained, they will start exploring again. So they will explore. Once they find something, a good resource, they will exploit it, and they will explore again. So it's kind of their like whole journey is not they're going at once from north to south. They will have this like phase in, phase out, like explore and exploit. And human, like our professional career, we can also think about that, like explore and exploit. So what happens is that you took a new opportunity, it can be new job, just new responsibility, whatever, and you have certain like deficiency in your skill, and then you are exploring and you grow in that direction, like that, the time between that bars between one. And once you have learned sufficiently, then you can coast for a while. You are exploiting that. I don't want you to like go and let's do another one, go and let's just don't always hyped up. So you explore, you learn something, and then you exploit that for a while. You're coasting, and at some point you'll be like, okay, now I have coasted for sufficient amount of time. Let's try to find another opportunity that allows me to run. And these are something I'm talking about mostly when like on the job. You can always find projects, opportunities within organization, outside of your organization, that will challenge you to be in that growth path, that 1, 3, and 5. So you are taking on something new where you don't know a lot. So that will force you to grow. This is a strategy to like force you to grow. But then once you have like 6 months, 8 months, at some point you will see, okay, I know this sufficiently enough that I can do my job. And then I don't want you to immediately go to 3. I want you to be in the 2 and 4 and enjoy a little bit. Just exploit that a little bit, think through, don't rush over. And at some point you will feel like, okay, you have coasted enough, then it's a good setup point to like start exploring for the new skill, opportunity, whatever it is. So kind of like looking at your like career journey in that like a phase in, phase out of like exploit and explore, that really helps. So for me, in my first job, I have explored and then like for a good amount of time, but then exploited it for longer than I should have been. So if I knew about this thing way back, I would have looked for new opportunities way earlier than when I switched. But it's that like kind of understanding, okay, you have exploited that particular resource sufficiently, and if you stay there, it will be stagnating. So like if you think of the birds, like once they have exploited that resource, the feeding ground for long enough, if they don't start exploring, they will die out of hunger there. So you don't want your career to like die out of hunger or opportunity. So you have to be mindful about that, to like when to take off and start exploring. So you exploit, that's fine. So that transition from 2 to 3, you have to think about it like when to take off. So that's a kind of strategy that I have been following in my last few years, that when I learned about it. And it's not just about like job hopping, not necessarily, it's more about like learning skills, using them, and finding new opportunities that will help you to grow skill. It doesn't have to be that, okay, I have worked here sufficiently enough, now I have to move outside of this organization, go somewhere else. It's just like finding opportunities, projects, new tasks that allows you to like keep yourself in that like growth path for skills. And this is the only slide where I'm going to talk about myself, like, because I'm like, okay, you will be like, okay, you have been talking about all these things, but do they really work? So I'm just going to talk in these 2 slides about like how it has helped me. And I know I'm running slower than expected, so hopefully, let's see.
No, we are going good.
Okay.
We're on.
So if I want to like explain my professional career journey, this is how it looks like. At the very bottom left, I went to engineering school in Bangladesh, and then I came as a graduate student at University of Cincinnati. I finished my master's there. I went at Siemens, worked for like 7.5 years. After that, I left for another company called ITI, worked there for 2 years. Then I moved to Excellent. This very linear way. But this is a very reductive representation of my career journey, my professional growth. That's how I look at it now. It's very reductive. It's very linear. Oh, you did your undergrad, you did your master's, you got a job, then you another job, and then it like. But most of our growth paths are not like that. And if you are in the bottom left, like if you're trying to like project yourself, and this is what I'm saying, like don't think about your career path growth like this way. This is a very reductive representation. Like if someone tells you that, they're not telling you a lot of information that happens in that growth. So how does it actually look like? So again, like too much information will be here about me, but just bear with me for me. Okay, so this is how it looks like when I look at my career path. So I'm going to like slowly walk you down here. So as you see, this is the very linear representation. And this is how I actually look at it when I'm looking at it. So before going to my engineering undergrad, I had a lot of interest in like programming and Linux. I came to that, I studied mechanical engineering, but I had some like CS kind of interest there. I didn't do well enough to get CS, so I started mechanical engineering. But as I was doing that, I had all this like continuous learning. I kept on learning about these 2 skills, like programming and Linux. I just kept, because I had like my personal interest there. And in my sophomore year, mechanical engineering department, they offered a course on numerical analysis. So what you do in numerical analysis is you solve mathematical modeling problem using computer programming. And I'm like, oh, this is very fascinating. Like I never thought like mechanical engineering will have an opportunity to tie in with my previous skills. And I really enjoyed that course, but then it was like, oh, nothing happened after that. Then I went to my junior year, and I think like that's when I first heard about this term called computational fluid dynamics. So that's kind of a build-up on numerical analysis where you are solving mathematical modeling problem, but specifically for fluid dynamics problems. So then again, you have to use a lot of computer programming and numerical analysis to do that. And at that time, my engineering school, they didn't offer this course. I was just told about that, oh, this is a discipline that you can pursue. So I just knew about that. And on my own, I kind of like started learning about it outside of like my school coursework. But that once I started doing that, I found something more exciting. It's called like computational mechanics. And I started looking for, okay, how can I learn about that? And that actually like kind of pushed me to come to like UC, University of Cincinnati, because they have a really good computational mechanics program. At least when I was there, they had a really good one. So as I came there, and I had previous experience on numerical analysis, a little bit of CFD, a little bit of programming, and that allowed me to get a research associate position in Procter & Gamble. So Procter & Gamble, being a local Cincinnati company, they actually used to hire University of Cincinnati grad students. So, and this thing happened, I didn't plan for it. So these are all the other things that I have learned in my engineering undergrad career. They just helped me to get this particular position. So from UC, I worked there for 2 years, and I learned a lot. The way I learned a lot is because I worked with a lot of Procter & Gamble engineers who were computational scientists. And whenever you're working with seasoned professional as an undergrad or grad student, you are just going to soak in from all the things they know. These two things kind of simultaneously pushed me towards Siemens. So it turned out that Siemens had a local office in Cincinnati, suburb of Cincinnati, where they used to hire a lot of people from the lab that I worked in. And also the thing that I worked in Procter & Gamble, the technology, is the exact technology they were using to develop a new product. So those two things, very separate effort, I didn't plan for it, but I kind of synergistically propelled me towards Siemens. So again, if you look back here, it's very very bland, but that's not how it happened. So it happened because I have taken all these small journeys from the main route. One other thing that happened to me in University of Cincinnati was that I got interested in applied math. So I came from a mechanical engineering background with some computation, but I got really interested in applied math. So when I started working at Siemens, I continued to like projects that had applied math requirement there. And as I was doing this project, I convinced my leadership team in Siemens that, hey, can you guys allow me to go back to school part-time to learn more about this? Because I'm working on all these things. I know some, but there are a lot of gaps I see. And I really want to reduce these gaps. So this is something for a lot of you, I don't know how much you know, a lot of US companies, they actually have tuition reimbursement program. So if you ask nicely to the right people, they will help you fund your education with company dime. So Siemens at that point, they were very generous about that. So I went back to UC part-time as working as a full-time employee there. And I did a master's over 2.5 years. That whole time Siemens paid the entire bill. The only requirement was that I had to stay there for another year after I get my degree. But I got a free education out of my work at Siemens. But as I was doing that, so I started with a mechanical engineering background. I went to computational. Then I became applied math / mathematician. I used to introduce myself as well, I'm an applied mathematician, and I used to have a lot of fun about that. But so as I was doing that applied mathematics thing, I was working with the advisor there who was doing a lot of research in computational biology. And I got really interested in that. Till now, I was using my knowledge of computer science and math to solve mechanical engineering problem. But now I can use those two things and also solve computational biology problem. And I did some work in my thesis there, but nothing really of a professional quality. That just stayed there. But what happened out of that, as I was doing this mechanical math courses, I got more interested in teaching math. So I always had this idea of helping other people with education. I always wanted to do work in the education sector. And I took a part-time job at Cincinnati State, just teaching math. This was my kind of fun job where after work, I will come there and I will teach one course a semester for I taught it for 5 years where I was teaching calculus and functions and all those algebra and all those things. But that computational biology, that just stayed there. Nothing really happened. It just it's an offshoot I took that there. I don't know what I will do with that. I just pursued that for a while. In the meanwhile, from Siemens, at some point I decided move outside. I took a job at ITI. This is a company where I was doing a lot of project management. So they were selling Siemens products to various engineering companies. So since I had a lot of background in Siemens products, I was doing project management. So if you think like I had a lot of technical background, so this is where I learned how to do project management, how to do biz dev, how to talk with people with like from leadership from different companies. And I learned all this skill as I was doing that. And then the plague happened, like everyone is remote. And then turn out that there's a company called Excel Informatics outside of Maryland. They were hiring people to do a lot of like computational biology research for National Institute of Health. And I'm like, hey, look, this is something I wanted to do always. Like now that it's remote, I can go and do it. Because I have this exposure there. I talked with the manager there, explained like what are my interests, like why I want to come and do this job. And I got the job. So if you think about that, like I have done computational biology, not really thinking about like how it's going to like contribute to my growth, but I just decided like that breadth requirement I talked about, like few things that I want to like learn because I'm interested in things. So that kind of those kind of breadth at the end connected me to where I am right now. And also now that I work for a federal contractor, I do a lot of project management because I have a small team I'm leading. So that happened there. And then also, like, this is my new venture, Industry Insider, where I am, as I said, like we are doing a quarterly magazine in Bangladesh, entirely focusing on industry. So a lot of industry related literature. So now I'm doing a lot of biz dev for that. I'm doing a lot of project management. So up until this point in my career, it's not really linear. I have learned a lot of different things in a lot of different places, not really thinking about an immediate return. As I keep saying, there like very few times you will get an immediate return. But as your skill grows in various directions, both the T, eventually you will find opportunities to like connect this thing and get somewhere. Steve Jobs has a very good like graduation like commencement speech from Stanford around like 2003, 2004, I think. He talks about this a lot. I never really understood that at that point, like how he was talking about connecting the dots. But now that I look back at my career, it's all about, it's mostly like that way. And so what I want you to like get out of these two slides is like, don't take your career growth as a linear thing. Oh, I'm here, I'm a junior, I'm a senior, then I become a manager, then I'm a director. Like, don't think in that direction. It's much more like a non-linear web than a very linear growth. So you can pursue your interest, and as you grow your skills, you will be able to like come back and connect things and pursue opportunities. It just happens. So yeah, just don't think of your career as a linear thing. With that, yeah, that's a lot about me.
I have something to say
sure.
here, Bhaiya.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in my workplace, whenever something comes in, I am the most excited person. Like if there's a reporting side or making some dashboard or doing some analysis or writing a query, I mean, various type of things like those are completely different from each other. So one time, one of my peer, they told me like, Sadia, don't try to focus on everything. Get something and stay focused and become an SME there. But I was confused, like that's not me, because I get bored with one thing at a time. So I have to have several things where I can work. I will work on this, and then I will work on that. I will work on that. That's what my type is, and I cannot get out of it. So your this slide really helped me. Like, okay, probably my thoughts are not different. Like what you mentioned, I am not doing something I shouldn't be doing, like focusing on one thing and not focusing on everything. So yeah, this was really helpful for me to understand, like, okay, it's okay to focus on everywhere and it's still better at everything.
Yeah, so if you look at the slide about the T, you really want to have expertise on one or two things that you really know well. But if you only focus on that, that reduces your chance for this kind of like synergistic encounters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so these are the two more things that I'm going to talk before we wrap. The next and next. So right now it's like, okay, you want to be in a growth path. So if you want to be in a growth path, like how can you kind of like help it to happen automatically or semi-automatically? So whenever you're pursuing a next opportunity, always think about roles, opportunities that allows you to a 25% skill growth. So like have that difference, like what you do now and what you do, the new opportunity you are pursuing. If you have that kind of like skill difference, if you take on that opportunity, that will make sure that you are actually learning that. This is something we call on-the-job learning. So don't move laterally from what you are doing to another organization doing the same thing. That will slow your growth. You will grow, but in a very slow rate. So seek for opportunities that forces you to be in that disadvantageous position of 25%, like where you know a lot of things, but you don't really know everything. So that kind of thing will make sure that you are growing or staying on the growth path. So this is a technique that I have learned, and then nowadays that's what I'm using whenever I'm taking on projects, or even like thinking about like choosing a job. I'm always looking for roles that are allowing me to have this like 25% skill difference. Like then it forces me to like go further. Yeah. And this is something also like whenever you're thinking about taking a new opportunity, kind of put a little bit of thought about the next. So like if you take this one like a year down the road or 2 years down the road, what exactly the new other thing you are opening yourself up to? So if you have like two equivalent opportunity or path you want to pursue, like at that point, just make sure you're thinking about the next. Okay, if you take A, what's the next for you? If you take B, what's the next for you? A lot of time, A will be slightly better in a short term than B, but the next of A probably is not that great of like next of B. So sometimes you will have to give up on that like short term, like bump on things and kind of put yourself in a longer term thing. So this is something like I haven't done at the beginning of my career, but now I'm in a position where I'm really thinking about that all the time. Like whenever I have opportunities, it's, as I said, like opportunities doesn't mean like job offers. Opportunities mean like projects, paths inside the organization or things. I'm always thinking about, okay, like if I take this versus that, like what's the next for me? So it just helps me to like make better decisions. And like one of my mentors gave this advice and it just works. Like for me, it simplifies thinking for me when I'm doing this pro-con analysis of like some like similar things. Okay, we have talked a lot about growth, how you can do, but then like humans are social being. We are influenced by a lot of things in our surrounding. So the most important thing is cultivating your environment when you are in a growth, when you want to pursue this growth path. A lot of things that I'm going to say here might appear like rude, but this is important. So in discussion, this is a common thing that I fall prey to myself. Like when I'm getting into a discussion, I have this preconceived conclusion and I'm just going to like get in the discussion and trying to like seek validation of my preconceived conclusion. And that really doesn't take me anywhere. If I'm discussion, that's just a waste of time because I'm just trying to like seeking validation rather than like listening new information and changing my conclusion. So this is something we have to deliberately practice. We are all, most of us, like I'm certainly the victim of that thing. Like I'm going into conversation with a lot of preconceived conclusion. So instead, like we have to try actively not to like just seek validation of our conclusion, but to like listen like what they're saying so that we can critically think and reevaluate our conclusion. So this is something, it takes a lot of deliberate practice. I feel prey to this all the time. Like I go into discussion and just trying to seek validation, then listen, but then I have to like remind myself like, okay, this is probably not why I'm having this discussion, because otherwise that discussion is pointless because the conclusion is done for me. Like why am I even like talking or discussing this thing? Cultivating curiosity. So as human, like you have to cultivate curiosity. You have to be passionate about things outside of just one thing that you do. And that cultivation of curiosity will lead you to interesting opportunities, paths, skills. So just don't like be like, okay, I am doing, this is the one thing that was given to me and I'm doing it. I don't have to like explore outside. So don't think that way. Like try to like cultivate your curiosity, whatever that is. Like everyone has different thing, but be curious about things outside of your main domain. That is something that really helps you to like grow. Again, like being the smartest person in the room, it will limit your growth. Like if you are the smartest person in that room, you are probably not learning. You are in that exploit zone. So try to get out of that situation and try to find rooms where like you are actually like interacting with people who knows better than you, and you will be able to like learn from them. So it's always like the mechanical engineering, like if you have higher potential energy or heat energy, if you have a temperature difference, it always goes downwards to a lower temperature. So be on the lower temperature, not on the hot side. So the things comes to you, not the other way. This is advice I got from Tim Ferriss podcast, and I really love this thing. You are the average of 5 people you hang out with. So choose your company wisely, choose people that supports your growth mindset. If you hang out, this is the rudest of the all advice. If you hang out with people who don't have growth mindset, likely enough, you will not be able to pursue that path. Like we are human beings, we get influenced by people that surround us. So we are the average of 5 people we hang out with. We have to make sure that we're hanging out with the right people that supports us in our growth path. That's very important. Finally, this is like, don't spend your energy on proving people wrong. That will not take you anywhere. Like spend your energy on your inner development. So that's very important. So yeah, I think I finished a little longer than where I wanted to, but yeah, that's all I had to say, and I'm happy to like talk more. As you can see, I'm really energetic.
Really great. I mean, a very informative session. I learned a lot. We have a question in the chat. We can take a quick look at. Do you think, it's from Shahriar Rahman. Do you think your managers, supervisors have a role in your professional growth?
Not all of them. So this is a sad truth about corporate America. Your manager will probably have the least amount of interest in your growth because he or she will like the status quo that have, because you were doing what you're supposed to do. Like, why should they? So not a lot of managers will take an active role in your growth. I was like lucky to have like a few of them who have taken an active like role in helping me decide on things. But yeah, this is something you have to like make sure that you are the one in charge, where because you growing and moving out of your organization doesn't really help your manager that much. That's kind of a sad, ugly truth. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. So you have to be your own advocate for growth.
All right. I think Shahriar, is the answer is good enough? All
Yes,
right.
good. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. We have another question on this. It said that with the arrival and rapid adoption of AI, a lot of traditional jobs, including engineering jobs, will become extraneous. What is your thoughts on this?
I think if you think about the
Yeah,
history of
Rahman.
like industrial development, there's a lot of job we had that disappeared and new jobs showed up. So yeah, new jobs will show up. You will have to make sure that your skills are up to date. And that's why I talk about like, if you do not grow, that will lead to negative growth because everything's around, your surroundings are changing, organizations are trying to grow. So you like, there will be new jobs that will show up. That think about like the jobs we do today. A lot of this job never existed in like beginning of 20th century. So in that way, like a lot of the job we do now will disappear, but new jobs will show up that we can't even like think about right now. So things will show up. So you have to make sure that your basics are good. You are on the journey of learning and seeing like how things are growing, that like next and next on when you're trying to decide on like what you want to grow on, think about the next and next net, and that will be there. I am personally not worried about my job getting away in the next 10, 15 years. I don't know after that, like I'm pretty sure that a lot of engineering jobs that are nowadays exist will continue to exist. Maybe they will have a lot of augmentation from AI. So you will probably have a more like intuitive like AI companion in your job when you're designing things, writing code, doing things. But I don't think it's going to go away. Although a lot of those engineering jobs we have nowadays, it will stay at least for next 10, 15 years. That's my guess, but who am I to say? I might be wrong.
Yeah, it could be. I have a question for you, slightly different from
Sure.
what we saw in your presentation. That is from your background. So I see you have, okay, we have another questions here. So it's
Okay.
from Asif, and he was asking, have you ever exploited HR input on yearly performance review?
I'm not sure what you mean by HR exploiting HR input. If you can clarify a little bit there.
Hey, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, just a thought came to my mind, right? Sometimes people get different kind of reviews from their managers, right? Performance reviews.
Mhm.
Some might get a very good review, some might get bad, or some doesn't know where they stand in terms of their performance in the team environment, right? Managers will sometimes not tell you who is the best performer in the team, but
Mhm.
at the end, they might get the promotion, not you, right? So, have you talked to HR how these two things matter, like how HR perceive your team's performance and how, when a manager gives a recommendation for somebody to go up versus you, like based on what manager is telling them?
So all the organizations that I have worked on, a lot of them have a strong engineering culture, and because of that, HR was more of in my experience, was like more of like a rubber stamp than actually dictating the policy. What I have done on my performance reviews was one thing, like I know that there is annual performance review, but I have taken this as my job to like proactively do like quarterly one-on-ones with my manager, like on how am I doing. So this, a lot of time managers are busy. Like, as I said, like your growth is probably the least of the priority of a manager, especially middle managers. So you have to be the one proactively pursuing it. So set up like quarterly expectations, the quarterly meeting, so that you can ask the questions like, what do you think of like my performance the last 3 months? Then just getting a one surprise at the end of the year review. So that I have done. And so what that has helped me was like always to like stay up to date on like what my managers are thinking about how I'm doing. And also always asking them to give me like a growth path. Like, okay, if I want to like go from here to here, what is the thing like in a quantitative or qualitative way I have to achieve? And that actually forces them to think. As I said, like these are like things managers are really busy. Like your growth or the annual performance review, these are the things they do it because HR forces them to do it. This is the truth. Like, so you have to like, if you set up the agenda and you ask them this tough question, that will actually like help them like sit down and think through and give you concrete idea. You have to do this and this and this, and then you can hold them accountable to the conversation. Like, hey, we talked about this, and that usually helps like them to evaluate you. So you have to proactively like do them rather than like waiting on your manager to like do the end of your review when everyone is busy or on holidays. They're just trying to like get away from office, and at that time they have this like 20 people team and they're doing reviews.
We have one more question. It's from Sanjay Kumar Paul. Would you happen to have any suggestions for current graduate students?
Suggestions in terms of job search or like professional development?
Anything like for future career
Okay.
actually.
I think one thing would be to like, as I said, like the growth that takes like 4 to 8 months. So in mine, one of the valuable advice I received around that when I was a grad student, one of my postdoc mentor, he told me that if you're looking for a job or new opportunity, like walk back the timeline and start like 8 months because it takes 8 months to happen. And like, I don't know like how that clicked on me, and then that really helped me because I knew I was graduating in like June, but I started looking for job in September, and then eventually I got a job in May. A lot of time I have seen students who are coming from Bangladesh, grad student, they will start looking for a job right when they're graduating, and then they get into this thing of like, okay, then I don't have a job and I cannot graduate. So plan early. Like whenever you're thinking about this decision, make sure that you have built in that like 4 to 8 month lag on your timeline. So start early, on any opportunity, whether that's an internship you're looking for example, like if you're looking for a summer internship, you should start like the August, September timeframe of the year before. If you're graduating in summer, if you're looking for a full-time job, you should start on like September, October. So like, yeah, start really, really early, build up on that. And it just like takes time to happen things in US, unfortunately. That's how the whole system is set up. Like if you think about like admissions, like you have to apply 1 year ahead of time to get here, right? So everything else is like the same way. So just build that time in whenever you're thinking about something. Allow yourself sufficient time.
Thank you.
So I have a question that is about switching job or switching a team inside the organization or going outside of an organization. So what is a good time frame? Like if you are working in a team for 1 or 2 years, or how long you should stay in a team, or try to think of switching to a different team? Like what is the standard?
Yeah, so the way standard can be a difficult thing to say, but I can say like what I look at, or what a lot of people that I kind of like talk with, they look at is like, if you think about like you have not learned a single new thing in the last 6 months, that's a red flag at that point. Like that means you are not growing. Like you have barely learned anything new doing your job in the last 6 months. Then you should really consider that, okay, should I stay here any longer? Like, yeah, typically, like if you think about like where you were like a year ago and now, and if you say like how have you grown professionally in terms of skill set? And if you cannot satisfactorily answer that question, so then that's the end of your exploit phase in that curve. Like now you should really like look for new opportunities within organization, within the team, outside, wherever it is, to help you.
But there is a saying like, don't get comfortable at one place. Maybe everything is good. Boss is good, environment is nice, you have opportunities, you are learning, you are doing great. But you want to step up and you want to get out of your comfort zone and get better at something else. But you are already good and everything is going very nice here. It's hard.
It's hard, but so I would say this is an advice one of my manager gave me, like before he left. So he said like, you should always be interview ready, even though if you don't want to switch a job. You should always, every quarter or every 6 months, you should interview. That helps you with a lot of things. That makes sure your resume up to date, your interview skills are sharp. If a layoff happens, you are ready with pipeline. So it doesn't matter whether you're looking for a job or not. You should stay in the market and keep interviewing every 6 months.
Every 6 months, okay.
Yeah. You should, because then you will know what's outside of your organization, what's out there in terms of like opportunities, compensation, like responsibilities, and where other people
And how
value,
demanding my skills
yeah,
are.
where other people value you outside of your organization. A lot of time, like inside the organization, it's common that people will take you for granted. So
Yeah.
you will never really know how valued you are in terms of the industry. So you should always interview, even though you know that you're not going to switch. That doesn't matter. You should always interview.
Okay. Yeah, that's great too, because when you apply inside the organization, it is just going to notify your manager like, hey,
Yeah.
your employee
Yeah.
is something.
Yeah.
We have
So
a
you should
follow-
always interview outside. That just keeps your skills.
Exactly. We have a follow-up question from Ziaur Rahman, Mohammed Ziaur Rahman. With regards to my previous question on AI, if someone wants to pick up a new learning hobby, what direction, in your opinion, has more career prospects? Example, core engineering, project management, people management, etc.
I think in any direction, if you're an expert, you will have a career prospect, whether that's a project management or people management. Like there is no like way to say that one of these things have limited opportunities. It's just that how good you are. And like for me, when I moved from Siemens to ITI, one of the reason I moved was like I have done like technical work for like 7.5 years, and I wanted to like try something different in terms of like communication, business dev. And when I moved, like in terms of like compensation and benefit growth, there was no significant change. It was still similar, but the area where I was exposed to was something that I had that, as I said, like 25% skill gap. So that was my 25% skill gap. So I have never done project management before. I have never done biz dev before. I have done some internal project management maybe, but now it's like professional level project management. Your clients are at stake. So that's something, that's why I moved and done. And so, as I said, it's very hard for me to say like which one of these has more career prospect. It's very hard to predict, but I would suggest to like try a few things, which one you like, and just go in that direction. It's just, yeah.
Any more question from?
Deeper Haldar has a question, I think.
Yeah,
Deepa.
hi. So I'm a grad student at UF. So I have one question. The thing you have mentioned to give interview in a regular basis, that's really great. But my question is, suppose you give the interview and then you get the job, but if you then deny the job, okay, actually I don't want to go, then how actually it makes sense?
It doesn't impact that much actually. Like you will say like I've thought about it, but after deciding like thinking it through, like at this point I don't see this opportunity aligns with like the direction I want to pursue, and I have declined job offers myself and then came back to this organization later also. So yeah, so it doesn't really matter that much. Like what you have to be is like you have to be like, don't like sign everything and then walk back.
Yeah.
And the trick is that, so this is another like trick that people taught me, is like, don't take that responsibility on yourself. You'll say like, I talked with my family and friends, and after considering their advice, like I have decided not to pursue. So you're just completely shifting the blame on your family and friends, even though you just decided on yourself. So people will take it like, okay, yeah, I guess he wanted to come, but his family and friends kind of like waited on him. Yeah, that's a technique.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Yeah, like what harms is like you have accepted and then you have signed and they're ready for you to show up and then you don't show up. So that is really bad. That's kind of like will put in a, like a red book for them. But if they offered you, but you were like, hey, I looked at the offer, but I don't think at this point it aligns with what I want to do. And maybe in future, because that's how they reject you, right? When they're rejecting you, they're doing the same thing. Like you, that doesn't stop you from applying there, right?
Any more question from the audience? I think we are past the time. It's already 1:15. If no one has any more question, we can wrap up.
There's one last question, I think.
Yeah, there is one more question from Mohammed Ziaur Rahman. How to persuade the manager to give a reasonable raise instead of an inflation adjustment? Yes, this is my question too.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So as I said, like if you keep interviewing, you will know how much do you worth. That's the first thing. So because a lot of time salary transparency is not there in a lot of organizations, so you really don't know like how much other people are getting paid. So if the only way you can find it out is like if you keep interviewing, if you get offers, you know how much you worth. And then on the with the manager, like don't do that discussion at the very end when they are doing that annual review. That's just too late. By that, everything is done. Yeah, as you are doing this continuous like quarterly meeting with your manager, at some point kind of like ask them like, what do you think my growth potential here in terms of like compensation and benefit? Like, do you have any idea? And then they will ask why. And you'll say, well, I looked at the data and I feel like the amount of contribution that I make to this organization is not aligned with how I get compensated. And then if you know the market data, it's very easy to like tell you. Right? And if you are good enough, so the thing is like the Cal Newport, he says, be good enough that so good that they cannot fire you. If you are a really valuable person contributing to the value of that manager's deliverables, the manager will find a way to get the raise. Like I myself, when I'm managing people, I know people are very valuable to my team. For those people, I will fight the heck with my VP to get that raise because I know that I don't want to lose this person. So if you are that way, and if you have this continuous open communication channel with your manager, you can bring this up a lot of time. Like, hey, where do you see? And bring this up. If your salary compensation review happens in December, definitely bring that up in your September meeting. Don't do that in your December meeting, so that it's on his mind. If it's on his or her mind, then it's much more easy to like influence the decision than doing it at the very end when they just give you like a slip saying like, oh, I gave you a 3% inflation rate. But if he or she knows that you are looking for more, they will have that in their mind, they're planning.
I think, yeah, I'm very happy with the answer, and I'm gonna try next time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can talk about my experience. So I also got inflation rate adjustment, and I was prepared to talk with the manager because I was expecting that. And I was telling, this is not what I expected, and I see I'm not growing. I know he likes me because I do good work, and he asked me, how much do you expect? I said, okay, I expected so and so raise. And he was initially not very interested in my growth, and I think he then got concerned, and eventually after a couple of months, like, he pushed me to be a principal engineer, and then I got a good raise after that.
Yeah, so
That was my story.
Yeah, so if you are a valuable member to the team, the leadership in the team, they will find a way to like make that happen for you. And like the thing is to like a lot of people, like for especially people who are coming from Bangladesh to here, we have these kind of a very colonial mindset of like respecting the authority. So we always are scared about like asking the manager because he's my boss, like how he do it. At the end of the day, he is also a person contributing to the corporate America. Like you,
I think we should ask it. Like, if we think we're worth more, we should tell the manager.
Yeah, you have to have those conversations. It's not like that if you don't give me this raise by tomorrow, I'm leaving. Not like that.
Right.
But bring it up as you're doing these one-on-one things.
Yeah, at least we should show that I'm not satisfied with what I'm having right now.
Yeah.
All right. I think we don't have any more questions, but we have a comment from Afroza. Wonderful presentation and discussion. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like having these interactions. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Thank
was
you for
really
inviting.
great. I learned so much from today's informative session. So we don't have any more questions or anything. Maybe we can wrap up the session. Thank you so much, Samiul Bhaiya. We'll go ahead and talk again. And Samiul Bhai, is there anything else you wanted to cover up before we wrap up the session?
No, I think I talked way too much than I wanted to.
Any message for
No, I want to thank
professionals?
Abia for doing it. I think like this is a wonderful service to like help like people like learn new stuff and grow. So keep it up. I think, and I'm looking forward to like join future sessions also, like where other speakers will come and talk. So yeah, keep it up. It's a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you. And for the audiences, if you have any questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us at abia.gs@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to follow our Facebook page to get notified of our upcoming events, and visit our website, and there will be more information available in our website. And that's we all had for today. And special thanks to our guest speaker, Samiul Bhai. We'll talk again. Okay, see you all in our next webinar.